Hello my friends and welcome back. And you know, this holiday season I went a little overboard, I think, on the fruit platters. So I've got tons of berries left. So I decided our family really likes fruit tarts. So I thought I'd make one and show you how easy it is to make them. So, you know, let's use up some of those berries before they spoil. Let's get started. Okay, I always start by making my crust. Super simple, super easy. Now you can use a KitchenAid if you have one or whatever, but I'm using a food processor. Super simple, super easy. Starting with 2 cups of just regular old flour. Just gonna dump that on in. And we're gonna put in 2 tablespoons of regular sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 egg, and 1/2 cup of butter. And you want to slice this up into, hunks. You know what hunks are. So I just kind of, put them around. There you go. Now we're going to put the top on and we're going to get this baby a-going here. And you want to, start by not beating it too terribly much. And we're going to just kind of pulse it. Once this all comes together, it's going to still be kind of dry and crumbly. We're going to add in 1 tablespoon of milk. And we're going to go ahead and pulse this up again. Once the dough all comes together for you, it'll look sort of like that. We're going to put it all together and we're going to form it into like a big disc. So you want to get it all out of your food processor and we're going to just kind of mash this all together until it's like a big disc. And you want to do that with your hands. Now, once you have your disc formed, we're going to put this covered in the refrigerator for about half an hour to an hour. You want to make sure that it's nice and chilled. Off to the refrigerator we are. Alrighty, my friends, now it's been about a half an hour. So we want to preheat the oven to about 350 degrees. Not about, actually 350 degrees. So we're going to take our disc that is chilled. Now, if you have a tart pan, great. If you don't, you can use any springform pan that you would like to use. About 10 inches is a good idea. So now we're going to go ahead and take this disc and we're going to put it into the middle of the spring pan, and we're going to push it out and mold it out to the shape. And we want to make it so that it goes up the edges a little bit because we're going to be putting custard in the middle. So I'm going to work on that now. Once you have your dough all spread out in your pan, now make sure you've got a nice lip because, again, we're going to be putting a custard into this. You want to make sure it can catch it. You're going to take a fork and you're just going to do a few piercings into the bottom. Like so. Pierce, pierce, pierce. Now we're going to go ahead and pop this in the oven at 350 degrees for 18 minutes. So I'll see you then. While that crust is cooking, we're going to start on the custard. So we're going to take 4 egg yolks, 1/2 cup of sugar, and 1/4 cup of cornstarch. And we're going to whisk these all together until there's no lumps. Once all the lumps are out, we're going to add in 1.5 cups of whole milk, and we're going to begin stirring. We're going to turn this on medium heat, and we're going to continue to stir for about 2 to 3 minutes until it starts to thicken. Alrighty, the custard is nice and thick. You want to make sure that you continue to stir it the whole time, otherwise it's going to stick and it's going to clump and it's going to break and all that stuff. So now we want to add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and we're going to whisk that in while it's still hot. Once we have that all whisked together, oh, this smells good. Once that's all whisked together, we're going to be using 4 tablespoons of butter. You want to cut it into 4 equal parts, and you only want to add in 1 tablespoon at a time, and whisk it in and wait until it's entirely melted, and then you're going to add in each one. Once you have all the butter mixed in thoroughly, you're going to transfer the custard to a bowl. Look at how beautiful that looks. Now we're going to cover this and we're going to put it in the refrigerator to cool for about 1 hour. We want to make sure that it's chilled before we put it into the cooled cookie crust. Alrighty, the crust is all nice and cooled, so now we're going to pop this springform pan and we're going to release it, and we are going to go ahead and we're going to put it onto whatever dish you want to serve it on. So look at how nice that looks. This is going to be a good one. This is going to be a good one, and it will slide right off. There we go, and we're going to just go ahead and put it right down onto the plate. Once the custard has cooled, now we're going to go ahead and put the custard right on into our dish, and we're going to make it all spread out nice and even. And this should be a perfect amount for one 10-inch tart. Now for the fun part, the creative part. Now you can use any kinds of fruits or berries that you want to use. Like I said, I'm using up some of the fruits and berries we have left from the holidays. So I am just going to, we've got blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. So I'm just going to kind of decorate this up using what I have, but you can use kiwis, peaches, I mean just whatever is your favorite. So I'm going to decorate this up. Then we're going to get on to making the glaze. Now to get on to the glaze so we can put the icing on the cake, as they say. So you're going to start with ½ cup of any type of fruit juice that you like. I've got apple cider left from, the holidays. I've got quite a bit. So I'm going to use ½ cup of apple cider, and you're going to add it into 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. You're going to whisk them together. You want to make sure that they completely dissolve. You don't want any lumps at all, so you want to make sure this all gets dissolved. And then we're going to just set this aside while we get on to the rest of the glaze. This will get added in after. Just make sure we get all those lumps out. And back to the stove. So now we're going to take another ½ cup of juice, any one again that you like. Again, I'm using the apple cider, and we're going to add 1/2 cup of sugar to it. Now we're going to stir this all together, and we're going to bring it to a boil. Once that comes to a boil, we're going to add in the fruit juice with the cornstarch, and we are going to add that in, stir it all together, and return it to a boil yet again. Once that comes back to a boil, we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of corn syrup, and we're going to stir this all together and return it to a boil again. Alrighty, doesn't this look beautiful? Well, now the glaze is cooled down. You want to let it cool down to like room temperature, and then we're going to go ahead and put it right over the top. We're going to cover the whole thing with glaze. It's going to make it all nice and shiny and beautiful, just like they do in the store. You know what I'm saying. And then we're going to cut a piece, and we are going to do a tasty taste time, and this is going to be so good. I'm telling you what, this is, look at it shine and glisten. Woo! This is going to be good. This is going to be good, my friends. I'll see you at Tasty Taste. Alrighty, time to cut into the masterpiece. This looks amazing. This is going to be so good. It's going to be so good. So I always say, you know, we haven't had dinner yet, but that's okay, because you always have to make sure you have room for dessert first. Dessert first, make sure you have room for that, and then, you know, then you can have dinner. But make sure you always leave room for dessert. You know, that's the important part. So look at that. Look at that. OMG. Yum. Can't wait. Oh yeah, baby. This is gonna be a good one. I'm feeling it.
That's the best one I ever had.
It's better than one any I've ever bought. This is a good one.
If I hadn't kept coming in while you were making it, I wouldn't have believed you.
Yeah, I made it. This is good.